Hi, everyone. It's Bev Janisch here, and I'm here today with Yasmin Elzomor, and I'm super excited to be interviewing Yasmin. And she had reached out to me not that long ago about a journey that she had gone through and a blog I'd written about the dark night of the soul. And since then, we've had lots of amazing conversations, and I've really enjoyed getting to know each other. So today, what I really want us to be talking about is the call of our souls and the ways in which our souls try to get our attention, to urge us to grow, to heal, and to ultimately go through a transformation. So let me just say something about the soul and the process of awakening. So a big shift really happens in us when we realize that we actually have two parts of ourselves. We have the soul, which contains that blueprint about who we're meant to become. And that's really our deeper self. And we also have our smaller self, which is really our personality structure, and it kind of becomes our interface with the outer world. And awakening really happens when we become consciously aware of these aspects of ourselves, and we learn how to discern the difference between our small self and our deeper self, or our soul. So it's interesting how this call came for Yasmin in her 20s. And for me, it really wasn't into my late 40s. And that tends to be kind of a pattern I see with lots of people. So before I start asking Yasmin her questions, a little about her. So Yasmin is a New York City-based relationship coach, speaker, and spiritual mentor. Her journey as a coach began at 21 when she hit rock bottom. She knew she had to make some changes in her own life, and that's exactly what she did. She started to really understand why she kept attracting the same unhealthy relationships and why she felt so powerless. After getting real with herself, she decided to help others do the same. So she's inspired to really empower men and women to understand themselves deeply so that they can attract healthier relationships and inner peace. And that was really how her purpose was born. So welcome, Yasmin. I'm so happy to have you here.
Thank
and
you.
I just,
that was amazing.
Yeah. So I really just want to start off by asking you that you had mentioned that you hit rock bottom. And so can you just say a bit more about that and what the signs and symptoms that you were experiencing that were indicating to you that something was out of alignment in your life and with your soul?
Right. Yeah. So, oh man, going back to 21, that was quite the year. I feel like that was just the year of, my initial awakening to spirituality in general. And I was in a place in my life where I was really confused about what I wanted to do. I was working 9 to 5s left and right, like working 3 jobs, burning myself out, just making a lot of money at the time, but not feeling truly fulfilled. And, I didn't have a really stable support system. I didn't feel understood by a lot of people. I felt like I was always like the black sheep, the odd one out, the one that always thought differently. And I knew that there was so much more for me to do and for me to get done. I just didn't know what that looked like. And I didn't know how to tap into that. I didn't feel like I was the creator of my reality. I didn't feel powerful enough to do so. So, I just kind of went along life, working and doing all the things that we do day to day, just on the hamster wheel. And I was also in a very unhealthy relationship at the time. So again, I wasn't aware of that. There were a lot of things I wasn't aware of. So I was pretty much sleepwalking through life. And I realized one day when I had the start of my dark night of the soul, the first one, I was just sitting on my couch watching a movie, and I had a really random, spontaneous panic attack. And that panic attack changed my reality. I started to experience a lot of anxiety, a lot of depression. I fell down this hole of wondering, what's my purpose on this planet? Where do I even come from? Like, what is life? And all these existential questions that I was like, I just want to go out and have fun with my friends. Why am I thinking about this kind of stuff at such a young age? And it was like driving me nuts. I didn't know where to really turn to for help because I didn't have the spiritual tools yet. But that was what pushed me out of my comfort zone. I just started Googling, how to get through a spiritual awakening. Cause I knew there was a part of me that knew that this was like something that wasn't necessarily physical. And that's when I started to try Reiki, and I got my astrological chart read, and I did tarot and hypnosis and all those different modalities. And I mean, I loved it. I found a sense of peace knowing that these things existed and that they were tools to help me on this path, on this journey of awakening. And, you know, I continued doing that. And down the line, as I began healing, as I began coming back to myself and learning about myself through these personal development modalities, I, you know, realized that I was in the wrong relationship, and I had the strength, the resilience, and the power to say no more. I'm done with this. I don't feel respected. I don't feel good in this relationship. This is not going in the right direction for either of us, and it's not working. And I also let go of a lot of friendships, a lot of like things in my life that were no longer serving me, that were no longer at that frequency that I was growing at. And it was painful because it was like, there was so much grieving that came with that. And I realized that if I wanted to continue evolving and growing, I had to be able to let go of these things. So I did that. And through that, I realized that I wanted to help other people do the same. I wanted to help other people attract healthier relationships and opportunities and situations in their life. And I wanted people to know that they are the creators of their own reality and that they are in power if they really truly want to be. So that was my catalyst. My breakup was my catalyst to go after my dream of supporting others on this journey as well. And since then, I've been, you know, on this ride, learning more about myself day by day and really unraveling so many more layers, because that's what it's about. You know, like our ego likes to tell us that we're done growing, but our soul's like, nope, not yet.
Okay.
So yeah.
Wow, that's super powerful. So really what started as a panic attack was kind of the first indication that, okay, things were not in alignment in your life. And then you went and is it safe to say that was kind of a shift from living the outer focus, no, like being outwardly motivated, outwardly focused, outwardly this, meeting these expectations, this is what you should be doing, to learning how to turn inward.
Yes.
Yeah. And it sounds like those 100% tools helped you turn inward. And is it safe to say that it also helped you then navigate what can be some pretty tough changes to make when you're talking about changes in relationships, changes in how you show up with in terms of, so what would you say then, that because that's super powerful. I think that's so powerful and so clear, like that really is what this was about, was for you to live in alignment with what your soul was needing. And so what would you ultimately say was the biggest kind of takeaway from going through that journey, from going through that dark night of the soul and feeling kind of lost? And
so for me, I think the biggest takeaway was kind of like what you said before, just turning inward. You know, I think I place so much on my external world and so many expectations to, you know, my relationship had to keep me happy. My friendships had to keep me happy. The money I was making had to keep me happy, you know, and I was searching for happiness outside of myself that whole time. And then when I went through this process of the dark night of the soul, I realized like it's all inside. I just wasn't able to tap into it because all this programming and conditioning that we're taught, you know, of living in this world on this planet to work, make money, and have a relationship and all these things, we forget that everything's inside, everything's within us. And, you know, the dark night of the soul, essentially for me personally, it's about peeling back those layers so we can find that pot of gold that we're essentially, you know, looking for and searching for. It's already there. We're just not really seeing it.
Mm-hmm. So it sounds like that really shifted even in terms of how you're showing up. And I hear a lot of people talk about the fact that, you know, this shift does often create a shift in relationship because we're wanting more depth to it.
Yes.
It shifted also your sense of would you say your calling or your sense of purpose, your sense of, so could you share a bit more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that was probably the biggest thing for me, because that's the thing I was searching for the most. I was like, what is my purpose? What do I want to do with my life? You know? And that was driving me crazy, because I was like, I don't know what it is. I don't know what I'm here to do. And I feel so lost and confused. So when I got to that point of realizing that, you know, my purpose was to support others and help them in whatever way that is, it could be in small ways, it could be in big ways, but I realized, you know, that's what it is. That's what fulfills me. That's what brings me joy, what brings me excitement, what motivates me. And I knew that that's what it was. And when I realized that, when that clicked for me, it was just like, you know, my whole world made sense. Everything started to fall into place and everything started to make sense. But it was knowing that and realizing that that's exactly what I need. That's exactly what I need to make me feel fulfilled. It was a game changer for sure. And it led me down the path of meeting new people. You know, it led me down the path of like finding a new partner that really resonated better with me. It led me down the path of like creating these opportunities to work with others and collaborate with others, and, you know, just being a completely different circle that made me feel better about myself, that made me feel better about my situation. So, you know, with that, I think everything started to unravel slowly, you know, and it took time, of course, like over the course of like 4 years. It really took like 4 years for me to move through all these phases and all these changes. And then I got to that point where after I started to, you know, step out as a relationship coach and as a mentor, I realized, wow, I prayed for this moment, you know, and I wanted this moment so badly, and I'm here, you know, and like we get so caught up in doing and doing, and we forget that sometimes we were really searching for that moment, and we get to it, and then we forget that that's what we wanted this whole time, because there were so many years of me like kind of climbing that mountain and trying to figure out, put the pieces together. So it really was such a game changer for me, like figuring out what it was that I was here to do and what lighted my soul on fire. And that's really what I wanted. That's what I got out of it too.
So, would you say that since you had that kind of awakening to that deeper sense of purpose and wanting to help others and be of service, which is actually really one of the things that happens when the soul starts appearing more, trying to get our attention. It is that shift from,
nudge,
you know, success and achievement and making more money, and not that, you know, those things, you know, money of course is important, and
right.
But the soul, when it starts to make more of a presence, really wants wants to be of service to something bigger than ourselves, to somehow kind of make a difference in the world. So as that became more clear for you, and that was like a number of years ago, and has there been any rocky patches since then, in the sense of have you gone off and have you had other nudges, you know, from your soul, from your deeper sense of self, to say, okay, you're on the track of making a difference and being of service.
Yeah.
But maybe you're, you know, you have to, so just share more about that.
Yes, Bev, absolutely. I love that you said it that way, because that's literally how I picture it. Like just little nudges of like, oh, let's course correct, you know, like let's get you on the path again, because you're kind of edging off so to the side. So I just went through another dark night of the soul, and it started, I'm 27 now. So here we are years later. Okay. Like, you know, I feel like I've already transformed so much of myself. And like I said before, the ego likes to think, oh, we're done. We've awakened. We are enlightened, you know, and I really did think that I was done. And I was at a point where I'm enlightened, I'm awake, everything's okay. I already went through a dark night. I don't have to go through it again. Little did I know that, you know, life is about peeling back the layers, and you don't see that or realize that until you go through another experience that humbles you. So in January of this year, the same thing happened. I was having a really great day, and then at night I was watching a movie, and the movie just happened to be Avatar, which is so funny because there's such a spiritual meaning to Avatar. And towards the end of the movie, I randomly had another spontaneous panic attack. And it brought me back to that moment of 21 when I had that panic attack. And I'm like, this is so weird. Why does this feel so parallel? It feels so like, it's like the same lesson, the same thing. But, you know, naturally I was like, am I stressed out? Am I burnt out? Is there something physical? Like that's the first thing we think about as physical beings. Is it physical? Like, do I have a sort of deficiency, or, you know, is it my lack of exercise? Am I not eating well? Like, what's going on there? Is there an imbalance? And I went to the doctor, I got checked. The doctor told me everything's good. You're fine. It's not, you know, it's not a physical thing. And I knew deep down that it wasn't, but I wanted to get that out of the way. And once I did get it out of the way, I realized like, wow, I'm going through another awakening. Like this is it. So I started Googling Dark Night of the Soul stuff again, and YouTubes and all that. Because even though you know that you're going through it, in that moment, you still need support. Each and every time you still need support, because it's difficult, you know, and it's hard and it's challenging and it's painful, and you're breaking yourself open all over again after years of having to do that. And each dark night is different as well, you know, so it's the different things are going to come up to the surface. Different things are going to come up to be healed. And I realized, like, you know, these past few months, I'm definitely at the tail end trying to reintegrate a lot, you know, still. But the first few months, like January, February, March, were probably like the toughest months of my life, because there was so much trauma from childhood coming up, and so many things that I haven't healed or looked at before. And it was finally coming up for me to look at it and acknowledge and just move through it. And there was so much depression, so much anxiety, so much heaviness that like I really needed to carry and look at. And it was really, it broke me open. Like, it was almost like I realized, like, what happened? You know, my soul is asking me something. It's crying out for help. It's telling me something. So, you know, the last few months I've really been sitting with that. I've really been reflecting on, like, where is this coming from? Like the why of it, you know, like, what is this telling me? There's a message here. What is it telling me? And I realized that the last few years I was falling off path. You know, I was kind of, even though I was on the path of my purpose and helping and supporting others, it was still coming from a place of ego. Like my ego kind of took over a little bit, and it would sneak up. You know, the spiritual ego likes to sneak up, and it would sneak up in certain moments, and it wanted attention and recognition. And I had gotten a lot of that in the last few years. So it's almost like my ego got used to that type of attention and almost expected that, you know, I would get, you know, featured in certain places and doing this and doing that and making a lot of money and helping, being of service to the world and all that. So I realized, you know, like I definitely fell off track. I started to depend on that, on the external, then checking in with myself and checking in with my soul of, are you still happy with what you're doing? Is this to help others, or is it for you to feel just good about yourself? Like, what's the intention here? You know, because we can all help others, and we can all, you know, we can all be very spiritual, and, you know, we have our spiritual egos that kind of take over. But sometimes we still need to check in with ourselves, because in those moments, we might be doing things with the intention to just get attention or to get love. We're not doing it because we want to actually help, or because we want to support someone on their journey, you know? So it really, and that doesn't make you a bad person. It just means the ego likes to speak up. So once we acknowledge that and we understand that, then we can move through it. And I think that's the lesson that I've been learning lately, is to check in with what is it that my soul wants? What is it crying out for? And acknowledging that my ego is a part of me too. It's not evil, and it's not here to do any harm to me. It just gets caught up, you know, it gets caught up in day-to-day life, and in this 3D world this matrix that we live in, it gets caught up, and that's okay. You know, it's part of us. But if we learn how to balance the two, and that they can both complement each other and like hold hands through the journey, I think that's like what I'm learning to do right now. And that's like the takeaway of this dark night this time around.
Oh, that's so beautiful. You know, that just speaks to, you know, I'd said earlier about the soul and our personality. Like our personality is kind of our way we interface with the outer world, and so when we can create our personality and the gifts of our personality, absolutely, and how we interface with the outer world with the intention of our soul, so that our personality is more luminous, and our soul is what can be expressed through our personality. So that's so powerful for you to have been able to start and really, you know, this deepening of awareness, of discerning, what is this in service of.
Right.
And
exactly.
it can,
Tricky.
it
Yeah.
is tricky. So
Yeah.
that's such a powerful question. So thank you for sharing that. I'd like to ask that question. So the other thing I wanted to ask you was that, I think we both can agree from just our own journeys and our own journeys of through dark nights of the soul and transformation and trying to discern that it takes courage to live an authentic life, which really authentic life really means just the life that our soul wants for us, not that our small fearful ego kind of wants. So if we can put our ego in service of our soul, but living that life of authenticity of our soul's purpose is not easy, and it takes a lot of courage.
Yes.
So why would you say that it takes courage, and how might you kind of inspire others who feel they might be lacking the courage to fully bring themselves to their lives?
It takes so much courage, and I know this from personal experience, because the judgment that comes with that, the judgment of, this is an example. I feel like some people are maybe their souls don't want to get married, or don't want to have kids. And I think that a lot of people place shame on themselves when they feel like, I don't want to be a mom. Is that weird? Because that's expected of a woman. It's expected that you find someone, you get married, you have kids and all that stuff. And for some people, that's what their souls want. And for others, that's not really what it is. Maybe the ego starts to kick in and say, all of your friends are doing it. Your family members are all expecting this. Like, you need to do it too, or else you're going to be the black sheep of the family. You're going to be the odd one out. You're going to be the weird one. What are people going to say about you if you show up that way? So I think it is very courageous to do that, because that's hard. When you have those expectations around you, and people wanting a certain life for you, and you seeing a completely different vision for your life, it could get a little bit tricky, because it's like, I don't know, what is it that I want? And like really tuning into your body and what it is that your soul is asking of you is so important in those moments, because it's so easy to get caught up in the programming that we've been taught our whole lives. And that programming is not one size fits all. It's like everyone has a different way of seeing things. Everyone has a different way of doing things. And each and everyone's way is beautiful and unique just the way it is. So, one person's life can be beautiful in their own way, and someone else's life can be beautiful exploring the world and being a nomad, if that's what they want to do for the rest of their lives. So I think it really comes down to getting comfortable with yourself first and foremost before making any decisions. It's understanding, what is it that you want out of this? What is it that your soul is truly craving? And when you feel that confidence within yourself, then you'll feel the confidence to tell people around you as well, like, this is my choice, this is my decision, and I feel really good about it. And you don't have to prove it to anyone when you feel confident. You don't have to shove your truth in anyone's face when you're rooted in your truth, and when you know what your truth truly is. So I think it really does come down to that. It comes down to cultivating that confidence, that stability within yourself, and knowing that you have the answers. No one else does.
That's so beautiful.
Yeah. Thank you, Bev.
That's so beautiful and so powerful. And so what advice might you have for others who are feeling their souls speaking to them? Are they, they've got nudges, they've got into, something inside them knows something needs to change. They're not maybe living in alignment. What advice might you have for others that?
Yeah, I think one of the things, and this is the advice that I'm taking, is to stop resisting the voice of your soul. Stop resisting what your soul's telling you, because it speaks to all of us and it's constantly talking to us. It's just sometimes we hear it, but we choose to not listen to it. And sometimes we don't hear it because it's so clouded with other things. But when we do have that level of awareness and we do hear it, sometimes we choose to be like, nope, that's a scary route. I don't want to do that. Even though I know that would be good for me, I don't want to do it. So my advice would just be to not resist that, and to just go with whatever it is that your soul is telling you, and to trust that that is in your highest good. that your soul is never going to lead you in the wrong direction. It knows what it wants for you. And even if it's hard, even if it's challenging to take that route that your soul is asking you to take, ultimately it's going to lead you to a place of fulfillment and satisfaction, which is exactly what we all crave in the end. You know, we all want that. And we all think that by banging our heads against the walls and listening to our egos, we're going to get there. That's not the case at all. It's the other way around. Because yes, listening to your ego is more comfortable, but you're not going to feel that fulfillment. And listening to your soul is a little bit more uncomfortable, but it's going to lead you in the right direction. So, you know, for me, and this is something I've been telling myself the past few months, is like, you know, just sit with whatever your soul is telling you. Write it down if you have to, you know, like meditate on it. Maybe, you know, do an activity that you can get lost in, that you can really hear yourself and that can make you feel happy. So you can make that decision from a place of clarity and intention. So yeah, that would be my biggest advice.
And I love to it, and bringing it back to what you said earlier, is moving through the resistance. But I love how you also shared earlier, you did that earlier in your life when you were 21. You had the initial call of your soul that stuff was not in alignment.
Right.
And you took the next steps, and then you explored. That's what brought you to meditation. And that's what brought you to some other ways, you know, other ways of being able to look inside yourself.
Right.
And so then you followed that path, and then you notice you were getting off track again.
Yep.
The soul's like, okay, you're heading in the right direction. Yeah. You are listening, but you're gotta maybe do a little course correction here, and which took you to the next level. So, because I think that's where people get so stuck, and I get it. It's like, I can't start until I have it all figured out. But the whole part of this awakening is that we won't have anything figured out. Not that we ever really do, until we take the step, and then life will tell us. And then
jigsaw puzzle.
And so then it becomes like this. But first we have to start. So it's not like we have to get it all figured out before. So your example was such, I think, a powerful example of move through the resistance and trust that you'll get the feedback through your intuition, through your dreams, through your body awareness, through symptoms, through the people you meet, the people you don't meet. You're gonna get the signs coming through from the soul about, you know, whether you need to course correct. So I just love that. Yeah.
And also I want to add, it's also trusting when, you know, the universe takes something away from you. You know, it's not that it's like taking it away because it hates you or it's making your life miserable, but it's actually a blessing in disguise that you're not probably seeing in the moment. But eventually down the line, like you said, you'll put the pieces together and you'll understand, oh, I see why this had to happen. I understand now why I had to leave this person or leave this friendship or leave this job or whatever the case is.
And wouldn't you say, like, just as you were talking about when the universe takes something away from you, what hit me is it's really giving us space.
Yeah.
Because it's giving us space for what is meant to fill that. What needs to come in needs space. And so that's the hard part, is that liminal space in between where a lot is releasing, a lot doesn't fit. It's like the old map doesn't work anymore, but we don't have a new map yet.
Exactly.
And so it's so hard. Like, I guess I just also want to say that's another, I think, a reason there's so much courage is because it is hard and it's hard, and yet it's so worth it. It's so, which, you know, in the work and what you're doing and what you shared. So before we close off and say goodbye, is there anything else that you want to share about your journey?
I just want to say that anything that comes up for anyone during the dark night of the soul, all of it is acceptable. You know, I think that we place so much pressure on ourselves when we're going through this like really cataclysmic experience, because that's what it is to me. It's just so like intense. But, you know, and I hear so much of this happening. It happened to me of, you know, having suicidal ideation or the desire to not live anymore during the dark night of the soul. and just like giving people that peace and safety, and knowing that that's okay to feel that way. It's, it's a normal part of the process as well. And, not everyone feels it, but some people do, and that's fine. It's a very harsh experience that we go through when we go through the dark night of the soul, and we lose all connection with ourselves, with what we thought we knew, with our reality, with our little box that we were in. So it's like, taking a fish out of water. That's really what it feels like. And that's a really traumatic experience. It's traumatic in a certain form. So until we learn to reintegrate, and until we learn to like kind of put the pieces back together, and our ego starts to kind of work hand in hand with our soul again, that's when things start to lighten up. And that's where I am right now. So anyone that's going through this right now, because I feel like a lot of people with the awakening that we're experiencing in the world and everything that has happened to us, I'm sure we are all experiencing a collective dark night, and we're all going through our own individual stuff. But just know that you're guided, you're protected, you're safe. Know that this is normal. It's a normal part of the process, and you're okay. You're going to get through it. And it's just taking one step at a time, one foot in front of the other, baby steps, until you get to a place where you're like, oh, wow, I'm out of that really dark phase, because nothing lasts forever, and change is constant.
Right. Oh, that's really powerful. So being that you're in the place that you're at, and I would love for you to share as we're kind of in our final minute or so, can people find you? And I know you have a podcast, and so just share where people can find you.
Yes, Bev. So yes, my podcast is my baby. I love it. I started it in September 2020, and like I'm just so in love with it. It makes me so happy. I love connecting with other people and having other people come on. And I also do a lot of solo episodes. So for those of you interested, the name of the podcast is called Humanity Feels. And it's all about relationships, spirituality, and mental health. So I mix all of that together, and just like what it means to be a human being, basically. Anything around that, so people could listen to that. I have my Instagram. It's at Yasmin Elzomor, and my Humanity Feels account is at Humanity Feels. And my website is also humanityfeels.com. And I'm rebranding that a little bit right now. So it's not fully ready, but it will be in the next month or so. So yeah, anyone that wants to reach out, feel free. And if anyone just wants to chat, feel free also. I'm so open to helping and supporting others, and just holding your hand through this really rough process.
Oh, Yasmin, that is so beautiful. I'm so glad we had this time to chat today. I'm really glad.
So emotional.
I know, it's like we've been on this journey together. So I want to thank you. And I know that our journeys will keep being intertwined, and
Absolutely, Bev.
Thank you. So I'm going to just say,
you.
And so we'll take good care. And thanks everyone for joining us.
Thank you, Bev.